What's up, guys? It's Dave Marshall with the RC Air Marshall YouTube channel, and today we are doing the flight review of the FMS Pilatus PC-21. This is an outstanding model. It's a little old now. It's about 4 years old, but I've wanted one for a while. I finally got my hands on one, and I'm glad I did because it's excellent. Before we head over to the field, I wanted to let you guys know I didn't capture any of the audio of the flight, so it's just got some background music. After the flight is over, we'll come back to the studio and we'll talk about the model a little bit. Before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button and you turn your notifications on so you're always made aware when new videos come out on the channel. Now let's head over to the field and check out the Pilatus PC-21 by FMS. All right, so that was the maiden flight of the FMS Pilatus PC-21. I've had many flights on it since then. I've probably got a couple of dozen flights on it. Unfortunately, my last flight, it didn't go so well. So normally I have the model sitting behind me. I'm waiting on some replacement parts, and all I would have is some parts to show you. If you guys want to see, some of the finer details of the models, like the front gear doors are pretty neat. I can, after I get it put back together, I'll do another model or another video that's kind of a walk around of the model. Now, what I wanted to go over is some of the flight characteristics. I'm just going by the book High Rates. I use the high rates for all of the flights that I've done on the model, and they are fantastic. It's not too crazy in the air. It's easy to stay in control of the airplane using the book recommended high rates. Now, I am still using the stock motor with the stock 5-blade propeller, which is very cool. It's got a very neat scale 5-blade propeller. Now, however, I did swap out the stock ESC. It comes with one of the, I believe it's a 40 amp Predator ESC. I did swap that out with a 45 amp Spectrum Avian ESC so I could take advantage of the smart technology using the 3204S smart batteries that I was using for all of the flights that I've done. In conjunction with the Avian ESC, I've also been using the new Spectrum AR630 receiver, which has been performing well. The exception to that would be the last flight that I had where I'm not exactly sure what happened, but the airplane ended up going in on final. I did crack up the fuselage. They're on back order right now, and I believe it may have had something to do with receiver placement, or it could just be a weird spot on our field. I'm not really sure. I don't like to dig too deep trying to dissect that kind of stuff. Move on smartly, get the airplane fixed, and get it back up in the air and try to figure out, was it just a dead zone? Because I ended up having issues with two different planes using two different receivers that both had issues in the same spot on 2 different days. The only thing that's similar is where it happened. With the stock motor, the airplane has great performance. It has good speed. It's not the fastest plane on the world, but it's also certainly not the slowest, especially on 4S. It will get up and move pretty good, It's probably sitting in the 70 to 80 mile an hour range, if I had to guess. The airplane handles aerobatics very well. It has a very axial roll rate. It does not require a ton of down elevator to maintain altitude inverted. So it handles inverted flight very well. The way that it turns your elevator authority through loops and things like that, it handles all of that stuff very well. It is not a 3D airplane by any means, but it does handle, normal aerobatic flight quite well. The vertical performance is, it's nothing to write home about, but it's no slouch either. It's pretty impressive. It can get up and go. And it has quite a bit of vertical performance before it stalls out. The airplane is mostly red, which was I was a little concerned about as far as maintaining orientation in the air, because it is all red on the top and the bottom, but it was actually pretty easy to keep track of. Now, a couple of things that I had to do, some of the downsides of the airplane. The airplane with the battery in its stock location is quite tail heavy. So in order to get it to CG at the factory recommended CG location, you need to add quite a bit of ballast to the nose of the airplane. I think I had to add 2 ounces of ballast to the nose of the aircraft. Now, after adding that 2 ounces, it flew outstanding, and you were able to achieve the CG with the battery in the stock location. A way around that would be to relocate the battery further forward in the airframe, which would require you to make some modifications to the inside of the battery bay, and locate your receiver towards the aft end of the airplane. But if you're willing to do all that work, you can achieve your CG by moving the battery all the way forward as far as you can get it. But like I said, you'd have to make some modifications to the foam in order for the battery hatch to sit properly, or for the the canopy to sit properly on the airframe once you move that battery forward. So another downside to the airframe for some, not all, is the landing gear is just metal wire with a plastic scale housing, kind of sandwiched over that metal wire, similar to what you'd see on like a Dynam airplane. It is not an actual strut. So if you're looking for something that has a nice, suspension, like an oleo type suspension, this plane does not have that. They are just wire struts with what look like, nice suspension struts over them. Now, with that said, the action of the retracts and the main gear doors is nice and smooth, and the gear doors fit over the main gears nicely, and the front gear door is actuated by a type of plunger mechanism. So as the front gear comes up, it activates that plunger mechanism and closes the front gear doors, and they close together real nice, and they have tight tolerances. And you shouldn't have the same kind of tensions that you would if it was like a metal spring or something like that. So it's a very nice front gear door mechanism. And when the gears are retracted, the lines of the airplane just look real smooth. Takeoffs and landings with the airplane were very predictable, at least in my opinion, with a notch of flaps in. So in my takeoff flap position, I was able to, to just ease into the throttle, and in about 100, 150 feet, the airplane just lifted up nice and normal. It tracks great down the runway. And for your landings, you kind of set up your landings similar to the way that you would for any other aircraft. I used full flaps for the landing, and as I was coming in, you just make sure that you kind of stay into the throttle, use your throttle to control your descent rate and keep your pitch up a little bit. And, as you're getting into that ground effect, keep adding a little throttle to, slow down that momentum, and always touch down on the main gears first, and you should be fine. I have seen some folks that have shaved a little bit off of the main gear doors that apparently make things a little better for grass operations. In my opinion, this model would not be very good for grass operations because of the size of the wheels. And speaking of the wheels, typical with FMS, this does have very hard tires on the wheels. But if you're flying off of pavement, and if you can bring the model down nice and smooth, you're not going to have any issues. But again, like I said, if you're flying out of grass, this may not be the best model. So those are my thoughts on the FMS Pilatus PC-21. Overall, I think it's an incredible airplane. I think it looks fantastic. It flies fantastic. It's easy to take off, easy to land. This could be a great, probably a second or third model for someone, depending on what you were flying as your first model. It's a great flyer, and it's certainly a great model to get you prepared, or to be one of those last steps before you transition over into EDF jets, if that's where your passion is taking you. It does have very similar handling characteristics in the air to a sport jet, obviously with the exception of it being a propeller-driven airplane. So it does have a little more, instant on torque authority to get you out of bad situations, but the flight characteristics are very similar to what you'd find in an EDF jet. If you're interested in picking up the FMS PC-21, be sure to check the links down in the description. We have some affiliate links down there that help out the channel. They offer a small commission at no additional charge to you, and it helps out the channel immensely anytime you use those for anything that you need to buy at Horizon Hobby. Other ways that you can support the channel is by heading over to our Teespring store and picking up some RC Air Marshal merchandise like this great shirt that I've got here. Or if you'd like to, please consider becoming a member of the RC Air Marshal YouTube channel for as low as $1.99 a month. That really helps out the channel, and we certainly appreciate your support. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and turn your notifications on so you're always made aware when we have new videos coming out on the channel. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you in the next one.